Welcome to the Be Real podcast with your hosts, Joe Cebula and Bobby Maximus. Now, Bobby, today I wanted to ask you a very specific question because you're a guy who's known for having a very high natural testosterone level. So my question to you is first of all, what do you do that keeps your testosterone high? And two, where do most guys go off the rails with this stuff?
All right, that's a good question. And it's actually interesting you asked me that because I just had a conversation about this morning. Now, there's two things I want to preface this talk with. Number one, when somebody says they have high testosterone naturally, I want to know where's the proof. You'll see people post their blood tests. I post my blood tests, but they'll only post a portion of their blood test.
Right.
So the last round of blood tests I posted, my testosterone was 951. But that wasn't the important number that I posted. The important number was my LH and my FSH, which were both at 5.7, which means I'm not on testosterone therapy. When you go on testosterone therapy, those numbers drop to 0.3. They're eliminated. So if someone's telling you that they have high testosterone, if someone's telling you how to get some high testosterone, you need to do a little bit of fact checking here. Are they on TRT? Because guess what the number one thing you can do to raise your testosterone is, Joe? TRT.
TRT.
Right? Like it's an easy solution. You want to raise your testosterone, go on TRT. But what we're talking about today is how to raise your testosterone naturally,
right? Which
now comes to the second point, genetics. I don't care who you are, what you think you know, what supplement you buy outside of TRT. Genetics is the number one influencer of your testosterone level.
Yeah, that 100%. Yeah.
And I'll take it a step further. I know that there are people, and I've been this guy in my life, to say with enough hard work, you can overcome anything. You can build muscle. You can lose fat. You can... Whenever you go to a doctor, what's the first form you fill out? It's family history.
Yeah.
So if your 4 grandparents all had skin cancer, I suggest you stay away from the sun. Mm-hmm. If all your 4 grandparents had a heart attack, Joe, the cause of death for you is probably going to be a heart attack. If your father was 6'6", 280 pounds with muscles, and your mother was a Viking princess and she was 6'2" and 180 pounds shredded, you will probably look like Thor when you're 14 or 15 years old. It's actually shocking. I'll post this on my Instagram. It's a picture of me and Beanzo, who's my 16-year-old son, and my 8-year-old son, and we're on a pull-up bar and we all have back abs. The 8-year-old doesn't have back abs because he does an excessive number of pull-ups, because he's been working out, because he's doing back extensions in his spare time. That's just how we're built.
Yeah.
The baby right now, my 5-year-old, I call him a baby because he's my little one. Joe, if you watched him walk and you watched him get up from a laying position, he moves exactly like I do.
Yeah.
So the number one thing that I want you to know with your testosterone, if you have high testosterone, that could be completely genetic. Like if you look at me, I started going bald when I was 24 years old, 23 years old. That's from naturally high testosterone. Heart disease runs in my family. There's a correlation between heart disease and high testosterone. Like I got the genetic gift. So that's a big part of it. And if you have genetically low testosterone, the advice I'm about to give you, it might not change it that much. It'll help it a little bit. Maybe 10%, maybe 20%, even 30%. But you're not all of a sudden going to be a guy who's at 300 testosterone going up to 1,000 because you decide to eat more red meat or you decide to work out. So I just need to...
And as always, consult a physician.
Yeah. I need to put that in place, though, because people listen to this advice on the internet. And they're like, hey, if I just have a sauna once a day, my testosterone is going to shoot through the roof.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. It will raise it incrementally. And if you do all the things I'm about to tell you to do, and maybe stay away from the things I tell you not to do, you will improve. Are you going to triple it?
Say it this way: like you're going to maximize within your potential, right? So if you have a genetic limit that you're going to be closer and closer to that limit. You're not just going to like burst through and turn into a freaking beast from the X-Men because you started chopping wood or whatever.
Yeah. And before you shut down, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do these things. Because even if you're on, and this is where I separate the experts and the people I trust from the charlatans. Even if you're on testosterone therapy, you should be doing all these things because you want to give your body every chance possible to make things naturally, but also they're also synonymous with health because the things I'm about to tell you are good health practices in general, not just for testosterone. So the number one thing that you can do, Joe, and I'm going to go the positive and the negative.
All right.
You want to raise your testosterone, get more sleep in a completely blacked out environment.
Yes.
There's a lot of science that says when light hits your skin, melatonin's washed away, that you sleep less deeply. There's a lot of sleep science that says you should be in a cold room with warm feet. So have your window open at night and wear warm socks. There's a lot of science that says you should sleep under a weighted blanket. There's a lot of science out there that says you should not be exposed to the blue light from screens 2 hours before bed. The more you can protect the quantity of your sleep and the quality of your sleep, something people call sleep hygiene, the higher your testosterone is going to be, the higher your human growth hormone is going to be, the higher your energy levels are going to be in the day, the better your immune system is going to be. Like the answer is to get more sleep. And I'm a believer that 9 is better than 8, 10 is better than 9, 11 is better than 10.
Well, there's going to be people who push back and say, well, I only get 5 and I'm fine. But I promise you, if you go from 5 to 6, you will feel super
You would be better on more. And the human genome hasn't changed in the last 10,000 years. And how, let me word that a different way. What were we doing 10,000 years ago? Well, it was dangerous when it was dark. So you went to bed when it was dark and you slept and there was no screens and no distractions and no lights and you woke up at first light. So you were getting 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep a night. That is the answer. Now, the reason I said 11's better than 10, 10's better than 9, I think everyone can get 7 hours of sleep a night. I think that's a reasonable ask, right? You're going to bed at midnight, you're waking up at 7 in the morning. You're going to bed at 10, you're waking up at 5. I think that's reasonable. When you start asking people for 8, 9, 10, 11, like I understand how that's not tenable for a dude who's working 60 hours a week, who's got 3 kids, who's got a wife, who wants to do some other things. But the thing I'm trying to get across is more is better. Now, conversely, you want to tank your testosterone? Sleep less. And there's a lot of studies that show if you sleep less than 5 hours a night, your testosterone will cut in half. Like you take that volume dial for testosterone, you shut that thing right off. So the number one thing you could do is sleep. You want to tank your testosterone, stop sleeping. Number 2, exercise, specifically sprints, jumps, and heavy lifts. Those things will influence your body to make more testosterone. I always use the anecdotal example of the sprinter versus the marathon runner. A sprinter is 5'10", 190 pounds, ripped, jacked. They win the 100-meter dash. They're pumping their chest. Rage, all the things. A guy who runs the 1,500-meter, he falls to his knees and cries after he finishes the race, right?
It's so good. And it's true.
There are, that's totally anecdotal, but there are a lot of studies out there that endurance athletes will suffer from chronically low testosterone. So exercise and lifting heavy. Back up. I did not say cardio was bad. When I say endurance athlete, I'm talking about world-class endurance athletes. I'm not talking about you who runs on a treadmill for 10 minutes to warm up. That's not going to kill your gains. I'm not talking about your 5K run. I'm talking about guys that run 140 miles a week. I'm talking about cyclists that ride their bike 20,000 plus miles a year. That is not you. Cardio is not bad for you. In fact, you could make the argument for the average person, any form of exercise will raise your testosterone. Conversely, you want to tank your testosterone? Stop exercising. Just quit. Sit on a couch all day. So that's number 2. We got sleep, we got exercise. Number 3, Joe, you got to lose some weight.
Yeah.
If you are fat, your hormones will not be imbalanced. Conversely, if you're too shredded, your hormones will not be in balance. Like, everyone looks at the super shredded person as the model of health. When men get below a certain amount of body fat, and it's different for men. I could say it's an average of, 8%. Say below 8%, you're compromised health-wise. But some people are fine at 6, some people are fine at 7, and then we got to talk about measure. Are you doing it on a DEXA? Are you doing a bod pod? Are you doing but just hear me out. If you are too lean, your testosterone is compromised, and so is your immune system. Now, note, I didn't say walk around fat, because that's not good for you either. But depending what studies you read, somewhere 15 to 17% is where your body is optimal for hormone production. So you want to have more testosterone, get yourself in shape. And by the way, the first 2 things, sleep and exercise, Joe, they'll help you accomplish that goal.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
You'll get okay. So we've got sleep, we've got exercise, we've got body fat levels. The food you eat will influence your testosterone.
Yeah, and this is huge too. This is as big as sleep. I think sleep is like the number one thing. Food is probably the next most important thing.
Food's a huge one. You need to stay away from processed junk sugar. I don't have a problem with berries. I don't have a problem with maple syrup. I don't have a problem with agave. But processed garbage sugar will tank your testosterone. So no more gummy bears, no more gummy worms, no more ice cream. Like, you're done with that life. Stop drinking sugar. On the other hand, things like eggs, red meat, chicken, fish will influence your body to make more testosterone. People are going to come at me in the comments for saying this, but long term, the vegan diet is not healthy because you are chronically low on testosterone. And if you have one of these vegan people who are telling you their testosterone is fine on a vegan diet, either A, they have the golden gift when it came to genetics, B, they're on TRT and they're not posting that LH and FSH number I talked about. They'll just post their testosterone. Or 3, I don't know if I said 1, 2, and 3 or A, B, and C, but whatever. They're taking some kind of other supplement to make up for the lack of meat protein in their diet. So I want you to eat more meat. The biggest thing, regardless whatever diet you follow, stay away from processed food.
Yeah, and that's the thing that ties every healthy diet together. Whether you're talking a Mediterranean diet, you're talking a vegan, an Atkins diet, a carnivore diet, a vegetarian diet, the one thing that ties them all together is
Now, Joe, I don't think because you had some water from plastic water bottle at a concert last Tuesday night that you're all of a sudden going to be overflowing with microplastics. Like, I don't think it's that bad. But in general, the less chemicals you can expose yourself to, the better you're going to be. So try to drink out of a glass. Try to put your food in a glass container instead of a plastic container. Try not to inhale bleach. Like, maybe use, I know you're anti-mask, but try to use a mask when you're spraying bleach around. Like, chemicals, things you're exposed to, harsh chemicals from the environment, will tank your testosterone. So that goes for food too. I'd rather eat pesticide-free food. I'd rather eat stuff that is from nature. I'd rather eat stuff that's not in a package, okay? The final thing, there are some simple supplements from nature that you can take to increase your testosterone. One's called DIM. It's a substance that's found mainly in broccoli and cruciferous vegetables that will influence your body. It actually works with your estrogen balance, but it will influence your body to have higher testosterone overall. Ashwagandha is something you'll hear about. Tongat Ali is something that you'll hear about. Boron is something that you'll hear about. Vitamin D, salt, those things will help influence your testosterone. On the other hand, don't get any of them. Here's where the supplements work and don't work. If you don't get any of them, it won't tank your testosterone. Not like sleep. You want to tank your testosterone? Don't sleep. You want to tank your testosterone? Don't exercise. Get fat. Eat a garbage diet. Inhale a bunch of bleach. Those things will tank your testosterone. The supplements may influence your body to create some more, but it's not necessarily going to tank it if you don't.
Well, I feel like you have to put your body in a position where it can utilize the supplements effectively. Like if you're way out of shape and overweight and not sleeping, no amount of supplement is going to matter. But if you're in pretty good shape and you need to get that extra percent, that's where it can come in. That's why it's a supplement. And
I'm glad you said the last percent, because I'm willing to pay for that, Joe.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm willing to pay for Tongat Ali or Ashwagandha or DIM on the off chance it might raise it 50 or 60 points, because at 46, I'm still trying to be one of the fittest guys on the planet, and I make a living from my body. So I'm willing to do that, but it's also in my budget. It's also in my, to be honest with you, if I came upon a financial crisis, I would cut that before I cut protein powder. And I would cut protein powder before I cut steak and eggs. Like that's the reality. Supplements are supplements. So now let's talk about, to finish off the podcast, let's say you start doing everything right. You're a guy out there, you get your testosterone measured and you're miserable, right? And you're at 300, assuming you don't have a genetic issue, because I've put people on this protocol and they don't raise at all. Like they are still stuck. That's the person. Actually, recently had a client. I said, you need to go for TRT. He's like, yeah, but you're so against it. I said, not for you. You're doing everything right, and you're stuck at his. Actually, Joe was below 100, which
super
that's
low.
like a major. There's like health problems from that. But okay, you need to go get your thing right. So if you're at 300, and it's not genetically related, it's 100% lifestyle. If you start sleeping a lot, if you go from 4 hours sleep to 8 hours sleep a night, if you go from eating no red meat to eating more red meat, if you go from having no eggs to having more eggs, if you go from a completely processed diet to a natural diet, you go from no exercise to exercising all the time, you do all these things, you might see your testosterone hit 600 or 700. Like you might see
it could double. Yeah.
A radical change, right? Because I know I said you won't double it, but that's a person that's really living in the gutter. And there's one more thing that will take your testosterone that I forgot to tell you about: alcohol. Alcohol will crush you, but it will affect your diet. It will affect your sleep. It will affect, it's a whole totality of effects, but drinking will, and I'm not talking about one drink every now and then. Yeah. I'm talking about you're a drinker. You're having, 10 drinks a week.
3 beers after work.
You're done. Your testosterone's going to be in the toilet. So if you go from the worst lifestyle possible to a great lifestyle, I've seen people go from 300 to 700. I've seen people go from 300 to 800. Great. Let's say you're doing everything right, though, Joe. Let's say you're sleeping 7.5 hours a night and you decide to up it to 8.5. Let's say you eat a fairly clean diet and then you go super clean. Let's say you exercise 3 or 4 days a week, but then you exercise 5 days a week. You're only going to increase that thing 50 points, maybe 100. Like it's not going to be the huge thing that you're looking for. And that's why I had to preface this whole thing with genetics. Because there are people, and the thing that frustrates me the most, if you get one thing from this podcast, Joe, it's the people that are walking around with 800 testosterone and they think they need testosterone because that's the hot thing they saw on the internet, and all of a sudden they jump on TRT.
Yeah.
It's the person whose testosterone is 300 that goes into their doctor, and the doctor writes them a prescription without saying, why don't you try to sleep? Why don't you try to... I'll say this about Ozempic, because I'm going to compare Ozempic to testosterone in this regard. If you're 400 pounds, if you're struggling with obesity, if you've got diabetes, if you're going to have a heart attack in the next 3 years, you take Ozempic. The potential side effects of the Ozempic, that's who that was made for.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
Who it wasn't made for? The 29-year-old girl who drinks Thursday through Sunday night, who can't watch her diet and doesn't want to exercise and just wants to be thin. That is not what you want to set yourself up for. And I see it. I picked on the 29-year-old girl. I could pick on the 40-year-old girl. I could pick on the 45-year-old girl. Like the standard PTA mom that's just 20 pounds overweight because she's eating off her kid's plate all the time. Like, you don't need Ozempic. That's not what you want. That's for people that have a real obesity problem. And so to bring it back in the podcast, Joe, that's my problem with the testosterone talk today. It's that's the hammer for everybody. Oh,
yeah.
Tired. Don't get more sleep. Don't eat healthier. Don't change your workout habits. Don't stop drinking. Just take this thing.
Well, I'll say the way that I spoke about this with my doctor was that there's not like a medical diagnosis for low T, but if you're a good doctor and you see somebody who has low T, it's an indication that there's something somewhere that's out of whack. So it should be an indicator to look at sleep, diet, exercise habits, and see if that improves it. Because if it doesn't, that's a sign of some serious other problems.
Yeah, and if you're doing, like, I'll push back a little bit on the medical diagnosis thing. If you're doing everything right, if you're sleeping 8 hours a night, if you're eating right, and your testosterone's at 300, you probably need a little bit of help.
Yeah, but I guess my point is the problem isn't the low T. There's something else that's driving that number down at that point. That's the concern, right? So it's not like you go in and there's a diagnosis code for low testosterone. But low testosterone is an indicator that something is out of whack. But you don't want to start treating yourself for thyroid disease if the reason that you have low T is because you don't exercise, you don't sleep, and you have a crappy diet.
Correct. You got to fix those things first. And even somebody that's good, like a good TRT doctor, will tell you should do all these things if you're on TRT.
Because even if you're on it, if you're doing these things, the results are going to be better.
Yeah, they all relate to health. And I'm glad you brought up the fact that it's like an indication of something else is wrong, because all this stuff is related. Yeah. Like, it's funny, like if you have a good set of healthy habits, your hormones are probably good, your heart health is probably good, your risk of getting cancer is lower, your risk of hypertension. Like, if you have good, healthy habits, all these things should be in order. On the other hand, if you ignore all the habits I just gave you, you can have all kinds of other problems. Because the other thing people will do is they won't sleep, they'll drink, they won't eat healthy, and then they'll get their testosterone tested and it's fine. And they're like, see, I'm perfectly healthy. Well, you don't know what else the other things that are going on. That's why I had to bring up genetics.
Yeah.
So again, do the right things. Be healthy. It's simple. There's no hacks, shortcuts, 3 easy payments of $9.99. It's simple, guys.
Yeah, life is better. Do the work.
Do the work. That's it. Another episode of the Be Real podcast. Subscribe. Turn your notifications on. Don't be a hoe and share the show. Is that what we're supposed to say? Something like that. Just share it with your friends if you value this content. It's a lot of work to make this stuff. I'm just going to be honest with you. So if you value this type of content, share it with everybody you know, and leave a comment. Let us know how you like the episode. And if there's anything you want us to talk about, we're down.
Yep.
We're DTF, as the kids say. We're game. Put your comment. I don't think I should say that. We're going to put your comments in the comment section, and maybe we'll help you out.